Yeah, he's in the city council meeting, I think.
Oh,
Yeah, they got a lot going on over there today. They, spending a lot of money.
Surprised that it's been properly advertised.
Yeah, sure has.
Have I checked with IT before I started? All right, I don't see Patrick here. All right. Thank you all. Thank you for being here. We'll move right along with our agenda. Mr. Mosley is going to be kind enough to lead us in our prayer and our pledge of allegiance. Please stand for those items, please.
Let's pray. Gracious, most kind, and benevolent Father, we thank you for your bountiful blessings, and we thank you for all that you do for us on a daily basis. Father God, we pray that you would empower this body, Father God, with the wisdom and knowledge to undertake the business of this community. And Father God, we pause and pray for our saint that is going on. We pray for the family of Dr. Charles Stanley who went on. And then, Father God, we pray that you continue to be with this community as we grow and become the community that you desire for us to be. This we thank you for in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There he is. We'll start off with a proclamation for Earth Day. I see Dr. Bell is here. Come to the podium, please.
How are you?
Are you traveling solo today? All righty.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Hello.
Chairman. April the 22nd, 2023 will mark the 53rd anniversary of us celebrating our Earth. The theme for Earth Day 2023 is invest in our planet. It's the only one we have, so we need to take care of it. This year's theme focused and engaged governments, institutes, businesses, and more than 1 billion citizens who participate annually in Earth Day activities to do their part. Keep Lyric Beautiful 17th Earth Day celebration is a free event for families, young or old. I always get that question. I don't have any children. I'm 50, 70, 80 years old. Can I still come? Yes, you can. You can still come. So it's for everyone to come out and enjoy and learn about our environment. So we invite you to celebrate and come out on April the 21st, which is tomorrow. Friday at Bryan Commons from 3 to 6. We still have trees that you're able to reserve, anywhere from flowering trees to native fruit trees like pawpaw. I have never heard of a pawpaw before, but apparently it's a mix between a banana and a mango, but tastes like Boston cream pie, so I'm not sure. But we have crepe myrtles and other flowering trees and blueberries and things like that for fruit that you can go onto our website, keeplyricbeautiful.org, and reserve one and come out there and pick it up between 3 and 6, Bryan Commons, tomorrow, April the 21st. That's it, sir.
This is a proclamation designated April 21st, 2023 as Earth Day in Liberty County. Whereas the first Earth Day was created 53 years ago, recognizing the importance of every person in preserving our natural resources. And on that first Earth Day, 20 million Americans rallied for a healthy, sustainable environment. And whereas the global community now faces extraordinary challenges such as global health issues, food and water shortages, extreme weather events, and economic struggles. And whereas all life forms on Earth have a right to a healthy, sustainable environment, and as caretakers of the planet, we all have an obligation to change the human behaviors that contribute to climate change and environmental degradation to preserve the Earth's beauty and its resources. And whereas this obligation extends not only to today's caretakers, but also to the future generations of caretakers who will inherit the planet from us. And whereas Liberty County is blessed with a wealth of green space, which enriches the lives of both residents and visitors alike, providing habitat for varied flora and fauna, sustainable natural resources, and many diverse recreational opportunities. And whereas Liberty County supports projects that demonstrate and encourage energy conservation, sustainability, and the usage of renewable energy. And whereas many local community members, schools, businesses, and environmental organizations are working together in the interest of the planet to inspire intergenerational participation through local actions and global environmental consciousness. Now therefore be it resolved, I, Donald L. Lovett, and the members of the Liberty County Commission do hereby proclaim April 22nd, 2023 as Earth Day in Liberty County. And I encourage all citizens to become engaged in local and global efforts to help improve the environment, so declared on this 20th day of April, 2023.
All right, come on up, Dr. Bell. Commissioners, people gather around, please.
But I do make a challenge, if any of the commissioners are able to come out there, we will have a T-shirt for you.
Okay. So Bryant Commons from what time to what time?
3 to 6, sir.
3 to 6 at Bryant Commons.
Come on in.
That means, Eddie, you are invisible.
I'm a shining star.
All right, 1, 2, 3, smile. 1, 2, 3, smile. All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I'll see you tomorrow.
What you do with all the pictures, Joe? I don't never see them.
Facebook.
I don't know how she used to come this way. She started going that way. At least you leave it. You got to be friends with the county, buddy.
Yeah, maybe that's what I did. I'm gonna look today.
I want you.
I'm gonna send you a friend
Fix this
request.
damn chair.
Okay, okay.
You gonna see you tomorrow. All right. The chair acknowledges the presence of the mayor of Walthamville, Georgia, Honorable Larry Baker, and First Lady Baker is here. Good to have you all in the audience. Yeah. Did he? Yeah, he kept his word.
He beat me here.
I know the coroner's here, but he's on the agenda, so we'll see him at that time. All right, our finance reports.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. We completed the county's February 2023 financial statements. This is the first item that I will report on this evening. As of the end of February, we have collected approximately 53% of our budgeted revenues and have exhausted around 68% of the budgeted expenditures. We currently have 4.6 months of operating expenditures in our unreserved fund balance. This is up significantly from the previous month, which was only 1.1 month. The largest reason for this increase is the collection of property taxes. It's finally started coming through in February, and it's made a huge difference. Looking at the departmental expenditures for the general fund, there are a few departments that are running slightly ahead of schedule. Elections, as I've mentioned in previous months' reports, the variance, the overage is for the purchase services for those voting hubs. However, we don't expect this department to exceed their budget for the year. Additionally, risk management. This is the department where we pay our retirement plan contribution. This was actually paid in January of '23. Another payment will not be required until FY24. So this department as well is not expected to go over budget. Public information is showing an overage for their budget currently for the expenditures related to the service awards luncheon that we held back in December. We don't anticipate this department exceeding its budget for the year. Engineering fees are running just slightly ahead of schedule. This is due to all the site plan review work that the engineer has performed so far for us for all of our many ongoing and upcoming projects for the county. The General Administration Department, I have mentioned this as well in the past. This is the department where we pay our regional commission dues from. These amounts are paid in July, and so therefore they're going to show over budget until we get further along during the year. The Bureau of Professional Standards. This is slightly ahead of schedule due to the purchase of some radios, as well as the renewal of the lens lock body camera contract. We may need to revisit this department before the end of the year to see if a budget amendment is going to be needed. Community Services is showing a negative variance due to purchases made for the annual wellness fair that was held back in October. But we do not expect this department to exceed its annual budget. Conservation Admin Department, we paid the dues to the Georgia-Alabama Land Trust back in October, but there are no additional expenses expected to be paid out of this department through the end of the year. Also, other financing uses. There's a very large variance for here due to the county drawing down on the 22 bonds that were issued back in June. And so since the revenue was recorded at the tail end of FY22, it kind of skewed. And now we're recording the expenses as we draw down the funds. And so far, we have, for FY23, we have drawn down approximately $600,000 for the new EMS building, $1.5 million for the Miller Park Fire Station, and approximately $400,000 for the solid waste recycling center. The total bonds were $12.5 million, if I recall, and we will continue to draw down the funds up and as we need them or as we incur the cost through December of '23, at which time the rest of the proceeds will be distributed to the county.
Mr. Brown, what else, what other items were covered in those bonds?
There would, well, as she mentioned, so fire station, EMS, and then the solid waste center improvements.
Yeah.
Those were the only three, and then you're getting ready to do some bonds this year, later on, probably, for the public works that's paid back through SPLOSH and also health department.
Okay, continuing on to solid waste. At the end of February, the solid waste has net income of $336,000. To date, we've collected over 76% of the budgeted revenues and spent approximately 67% of the expenditures. And looking at the solid waste departmental expenses, there is only one department running ahead of schedule, and that is 4520 for solid waste collections. In reviewing the detail for this, it was noted that the deficit is primarily caused by depreciation, which is a non-cash expense item, but also fuel. And as we're all aware, the fuel costs continue to rise, so it's a trend across all the departments. With regards to the county's special revenue funds, there are currently no departments that are over budget for this month, so that's great. Flipping over to the sales tax reports, our revenue for sales tax 6 for February was a little over $1 million. It was another good month, exceeding our original expectations. At the end of February, for the current fiscal year, we are $2.5 million ahead of schedule for SPLOST 6 and $7 million ahead of schedule for since the inception of SPLOST 6.
Again for me? Repeat
For
that for me?
Yes, sir. For the current fiscal year, so FY23, we're already 2.5 million
Okay.
collections higher. And then since SPLOST 6 started, we're 7 million.
7 million.
Yes,
Over and above.
over and above, which is a very great thing.
Yes, excellent.
Similarly, in T-SPLOST, we've received over $900,000 for the month of February. And since this T-SPLOST started, we have collected over $25.5 million.
You know, the state was projecting that February may have been a down month for sales tax, but
It dropped off a little bit for
Yeah.
both SPLOST and T-SPLOST, but it was still, I mean, $1 million for SPLOST and $900 for T-SPLOST. So it's still strong and more than we estimated.
Brown, I had a question on solid waste. Was this the first year of the slight increase after the study? Or is this the second? After the study we had, and then we increased solid waste a little bit?
Yes,
Was
ma'am.
this the first year, or have,
No, ma'am, we increased it 2 years ago.
so this is the second year?
Yes, ma'am, and it's going up again this year.
Then it steps
It
up.
will step up again this
Okay,
year, yes, ma'am.
okay. All
And that's all I have for you on the February financials, unless you all have questions.
Any questions for Ms. Sam?
Oh, it looks a lot better than last month. I have to commend
getting
you
better.
for that and getting everything collected, I guess.
Mr. Brown reported that Mr. Jones reported that he has collected 94.5.
Almost 95% already.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's way ahead of schedule.
yeah, it was
Way
excellent.
ahead.
Excellent.
Excellent. Excellent. All righty. No questions? Thank you, Ms. Sam. Oh, you got something else you do?
Yes, next on the agenda for finance is the FY '24 CIP. You guys have been provided with a revised copy of the CIP schedule. And I would just like to point out that these are the FY '24 items that were considered urgent in a review with the departments and Joey and Joseph. And we tried to find funding from other sources. As we mentioned at the planning retreat, there was some available ARPA funds that we could shift over to cover some of these that would also be ARPA eligible. Additionally, there are some that are SPOS eligible, and but overall, let's see, I guess if it doesn't have a blue flag or a red star, then the item will need to be covered by the general fund. Assuming that you all do use those ARPA funds to cover some of these CIP items. But the total approximate unfunded CIP for FY '24 is approximately $6.9 million. And if anyone has any questions, I'll be happy to address.
This is just as we saw at the county planning.
Yes, and I think we've added a couple more tick marks just to show the items that could be covered with that extra ARPA money. But certainly we can come back next month and you all can approve that or discuss it at more length.
At your next meeting, you'll actually approve the modifications to your ARPA budget that y'all discussed at the workshop. But what we need you to do tonight is go ahead and tentatively adopt the CIP for consideration in this year's budget for general fund and/or those other funds. And so the items that y'all talked about using ARPA to cover are the ones she noted that have the blue flags now on them in there, and those were the HVAC projects. And additionally, your sheet will show, the next sheet at the next meeting under ARPA will also indicate that there's ARPA money allocated for Miller Park Pavilion, as y'all discussed. I believe it was $200,000, if I remember, of ARPA to go over there. So that'll actually contain a flag and a star, because it'll be eligible for both, or is eligible for both. And the other one is the Gun Branch Playground. They'll also contain a flag and a star. So those were the only changes that were there.
And the ARPA funds have to be spent.
2026.
Mr. Chairman, I wanted to ask a question, and Joey, you might can help me with it. On the revenues where it shows taxes, I thought at one time we identified timber taxes, and then we identified homeowners. Didn't we do that at one time? I just see that revenues on the page there, and it's all listed as taxes.
Yeah, this is just a summary report, but in the detailed budget over here.
Right.
It still shows it broken out.
Okay.
How, I'm sorry.
Did you look at it?
Did I look at the timber?
Yeah.
I looked at it the other day in here, yeah. It was running low. Of course, that's only the timber tax that you get.
Right.
Well, correct. I mean, it would be the timber tax that's broken out from the tax commissioner remitted from the mills. It would include assessed timber.
Right, I understand that part
yeah.
of it, because a lot of it's in conservation, but I just,
Did we get a check from Fort Stewart this time?
I don't know whether we've gotten, it actually comes from federal lands of something, yeah, but I'm not sure. We'd have
But
to
every
check
now
to
and then,
see.
a check will surprise us.
Right, right. That's for the timber harvested on
I can
Fort
check on
Stewart,
that.
yeah.
Okay.
When they feel the spirit.
Wasn't there a change in that now where they go online?
for the,
Or was that, is that starting in this year?
Well, so last year before last, the timber companies have to get a permit online.
Online.
That we have to register online, and that's the way the state requires it to be tracked. And then there's one person in the county that's in the tax assessors divisions of each county that's authorized and access to get into that system to check and see. Actually, they're supposed to get a notice too, so they can go in there and look at the status of the tracts that are undercut, so to speak, on the state side, that they're being harvested. But yes, ma'am, they changed that last year, this past year.
So whenever that tax is paid, does it go to the state first and then come back here, or is it going to the
So,
commissioner's office, tax commissioner?
no, so the tax still, you're taxed at the mill, right? So the mill produces a report, basically to the homeowner and to the tax assessors and to the tax commissioner. And so then the tax commissioner levies the appropriate millage to that harvest. And so it's taxed at time of harvest. You remember, it used to be taxed standing, but now it's taxed at time of harvest. And that is every county's experience that we've talked about it, is the underreporting, we think, that's occurring statewide.
Right.
From not reporting all of those harvests.
I guess, I thought maybe it going through the state when they changed the way to get the permits, that maybe that will clean some of that up a little bit, but
I believe it made it worse.
all right, so the CIP plan would need our approval,
Yes, sir.
acknowledging that it has flexibility in there, but at least we need to start with this as our baseline CIP plan for this fiscal year.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we accept the CIP as presented.
And second, we accept the CIP plans presented, once again with the caveat that we know we can make adjustments. Any further discussion? All in favor, let know by show of hands, please. All right, thank you. Thank you.
Last item on the agenda for finance is a cost proposal from our auditors, Malden & Jenkins. Included in your packets is a 3-year cost proposal, starting with this year's audit, FY '23, continuing through FY '25. There's an incremental increase for each of those years included in the proposal of $1,000. M&J has extensive experience auditing state and local governments throughout the southeastern United States, has been in business since 1918. I would recommend we stay with these auditors, but obviously, that choice is yours, so I'm just here to present the information, so, but let me know if you have any questions, and I'll be happy to try to answer them.
What number audit for them, what year? How many years have we used them continuously?
Probably the 6th or 7th year,
About 7.
I'm thinking.
What's the recommendation time frame of staying with one company?
There's not one.
There's not.
I mean, there are counties that stay with them 20 years, or some counties that swap them every second year. The thing I think that's different than I think something to consider is that counties our size that swap auditors go through a whole new process of gearing up with the new audit firm, staff-wise, staff time involvement during that year of inception. With the staff turnover we've had in finance, I mean, if you didn't want to go 3 years, I would at least suggest you go 1 year, and please, and stay with the same firm, so we don't incur all that. We're still trying to play catch-up because it's new staff.
I just have to ask, I mean, you feel comfortable with it?
Oh, I feel very comfortable with it.
And you do too?
I do.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion, let's go forward with it then.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion second that we approve the cost estimate to remain with Malden & Jenkins for our auditing services. Any further discussion? There being none, let it be known by show of hands if you're in favor.
Money count money.
Opposition? One opposition?
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
Mr. Long.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'll try to hit some of the highlights on this that I wanted to see. One of the things I want to skip down to track lane, if you don't mind, Mr. Giller, since we're going to stop on that project, I'll drop that off my report during the month. Because you had asked me to keep it on before, so I want to make sure we let it drop off. The Highway 17 Barrington Ferry Road roundabout, we have a layout. We have a meeting with DOT tomorrow about some of the things, kind of going over the progress. We do have sub-consultants set up for all the ecology and all the environmental stuff that we have to do for the DOT funding that we have for that. So that's moving along nicely. The Middle Park Recreation Park, they're pretty much finished. We're working on some aggregate issues in the grass. I'm going to meet with Marion Stevens out there about it sometime next week, and we're continuing to work with the contractor on that. And they're supposed to be back out at the convenience center to stay. So if they're not out there this week, but I think they're supposed to be out there to stay next week.
Are they still asking for that 45-day?
Yes, ma'am.
Didn't we already give them one? A rain delay?
I couldn't see where we did it last month, so we
Well, we did before that, I think, didn't we?
I think we did.
I think we've already had
Last
one
month, but
extension.
prior month.
I'll
After it
update.
rained real bad, there was a lot of
Yes,
water
ma'am.
standing.
I'll update it.
Are
I
they
was,
going 45 days and then?
Yes, ma'am.
45 days after February 20th or to February 20th?
after February 20th.
So they want to go into,
Yeah, we need to adjust that number.
yeah, we're
Getting
past
close.
February.
Yeah, we need to adjust that number. So I'll get with them and update the number, and if we could,
It's
have
April
it back.
20th today.
It is.
Yeah. Let's, get back, if I could be on the commission meeting, the regular meeting, we'll update that number.
Okay, thank you.
You can?
Yes.
Okay. Lost where it was. All right, the contractor at the fire station has done a little bit more. Still need to get a bit of work done on the site work over there, but they're still within time. The Limerick Road is out for bid. It showed up in the paper, so we're taking bids on that on May 25th. Bill Carter Road, we did receive bids on the 18th. The low bidder was Platinum Paving, so they were about 1.2 million. What we're trying to do is verify funds. We verified them as a certified, they're a good contractor, so we just want to make sure we got funds available for that.
Well, what did we budget for that?
Well, when we redid it, I was thinking we were going to hit about 1.3. So we're hitting right at 1.2. And, but it was a lot less than that a year and a half ago.
Right.
Yeah. So, but anyhow,
Trent, while you taking a break there, Lewis Fraser Road on Peacock Canal, it says the county is responsible for acquiring the right-of-way. How much right-of-way are we talking about?
well, it's not a huge piece. It's like a 10-foot strip.
Oh,
And I can't remember the distance, several hundred feet on each side of the road.
east side.
It's not a big deal.
Yeah, he's got it.
Did I went right past that, didn't I?
I was,
Yeah, I did go right past that.
oh, yeah, it's fine.
No, that's good.
That means I'm paying attention.
I'm trying to pick and choose and make sure that I don't read everything to you.
Yeah, we appreciate that.
Now, sidewalks for Elm Street are ready to go. We're proposing a bid opening date of May 30th, if that's okay with you. I'll get that in the paper. It'll show up next week.
That's the earliest, right?
Yes, sir. What that'll do is that'll give us,
Time?
by the time it gets in the paper next Thursday, and then we have our 30 days, that'll be just about right.
Sounds good.
It gives us a little bit more than 30 days, but the way the paper runs and we like to open on Tuesdays or Thursdays, and by the time those days get here, that's pretty close.
So, Mr. Chair, we don't need a motion or anything to move forward with that, right? Do we? Move.
We don't have any numbers. Yeah.
All right, We did, for Commissioner Gillard, we did meet with Allen Hurst, and they did award the contract to Platinum Paving for Davis and Salette. We did talk about the Islands Highway safety improvements at one of the retreats, and I don't know if we want to try to talk about that at the next meeting or whenever you'd like to do it. So, because what we need to be able to do on it is, we've got a year's worth of environmental stuff that we need to do, and I need to get a subcontractor on line, because there are certain species that you have to do surveys for at certain seasons of the year, and I got a species in all 4 seasons. So if I don't go ahead and start now, I know I've got a year, and I'd like to go ahead and still be able to get the spring if I can get them started.
When you say species, you mean species?
Species, yes, like critters running around and, yes.
What are you talking about, on what road?
Islands Highway.
Thought you just brought up the road there in Allenhurst.
We did, but I switched.
They got critters down there too.
We got critters down there. But what we're doing on Islands Highway is we're making sure we follow the DOT guidelines as far as environmental and
You got a
historical.
plan on that one there then, and the
Yes,
bid's
sir.
already in, right? So
Yeah, Davis and Salette, or are you on Islands Highway?
Davis and Salette, I mean,
Davis and Salette got a plan in, got a contractor, got a contract going on.
Did they say, you don't
no
win?
critters out there.
No critters? Yeah, you going, do you know when they're gonna get started on that, Trent?
I do not yet. Their contracts are not due back until the end of next week.
Okay.
So we probably won't be having a notice to proceed for another 2 weeks, and then sometime shortly thereafter.
Take me back to the species.
Take you back to the species.
So that's a DOT requirement?
Yes, sir. So when you follow the DOT plan preparation process, there are certain guidelines that you go through to ensure that you're protecting the environment. You know, obviously, we look at wetlands, but you look at historic areas, you look at archaeology, you look at endangered species. And when you hit the endangered species portion of it, in our area, we have certain species that you have to do the surveys for in certain seasons of the year.
Wow. So you have to set traps or whatever, or?
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know how
Air
to do
camera?
that, because
Something?
that's not my cup of tea,
I understand.
but that's why
Okay.
they have a pre-certified environmentalist to do that.
That's what they
for us.
do.
That's what they do.
All right, so you said Islands Highway,
Yes, sir.
but we're using DOT
Yes,
criteria?
sir. We're trying to use DOT
Which
criteria.
obviously is a higher level.
Yes.
Huh.
What we're trying to do is make sure that we cover everything with this level of project. Now, we don't have to go through all the DOT environmental review that goes up to the state and all the way up to federal and all the way back down, that takes you several years to go through. We're just going through, doing the studies, making sure that we're not getting ourselves in trouble.
Gotcha.
Yes, sir.
The studies.
We're doing this to give Liberty County
A plus.
A+, and to give us when it comes to liability, it gives us something to fall back on, that we did what we needed to do to protect the environment.
If you didn't do them now, because at the beginning of the project, and you try to get federal or state dollars to help like we've been trying to get, you'd have to go back and do them. And then you wouldn't be able to use the state and federal dollars as quickly as you probably they're going to be available. So it's something we definitely want to cover. Any kind of federal dollar that'll ever touch that project, either through GDOT or direct from feds, would take that study. And others. And noise, it's got to be a noise survey done. There's several environmental surveys that have to be done.
A lot of boxes to check. Is that kind of sort of what happened at Flemington?
It is.
Yes, that is part of what happens in Flemington. That's why that project
Took
took
an
7
extra
years to
year,
get
yeah.
on the ground.
It required the reviews and it required the GDOT and federal reviews because it had state and federal funds in it. So,
Yeah.
and that's why the bypass is
Yeah.
taken so long. Quite
That's the
honestly.
reason why they hadn't cleaned those ditches out on 84 then, and
Species.
species is out there. See how many species is out there? I seen one of them big old white pond birds in the ditch eating crawfish.
Way I approached that.
But no, it's interesting. I just never knew all that was involved.
Yes, sir. Matter of fact, the historic guys have to go out there and they have to dig a hole every 60 meters. They have to do a grid.
Yeah.
And they have to dig holes everywhere to find artifacts.
Yeah, wow,
Species,
wow, that's artifacts.
critters and all.
Trent, I have, Joey, on the first page here's Claudia Lane. Can you and I get together so that we can, talk about the funding for that? In the day next week, I think the only thing I got right now is, Wednesday after 12, I got to go out of town, but, Monday morning.
We can. I'll get with you because we have ACCG at the end of the week, so we'll get together first of the week.
Yeah, just give me a call, have Maria, set up something or whatever, so we could try to get that, want to get that taken care of before, it's,
And Hall of Fame is Thursday too.
huh?
And Hall of Fame is Thursday too.
Yeah, that's 6 o'clock at night though, so we'll get that. And Mr. Chairman, I would have been here, on time. I was, kind of depend on Mr. Donahue to keep the meeting flowing and, but I don't know why. I mean, I said, Pat, you got to come over here too, so I don't know why he kept us over there so long, but those newspaper guys.
Same morning.
Yeah. That's all I really have tonight.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Y'all have a
We
wonderful
know how to
evening.
reach you. Commissioner, I encourage you to get with Mr. Long as often as you can, prior to meetings, get a lot of your questions answered. I just believe everybody deserves the opportunity to get prepared to answer questions. So let's utilize his services a little better by reaching out to him before the meetings if we can to get these questions answered. But thank you for the in-service, those species. We didn't see that coming. Got a lot going on. Let's see who's, while the coroner's coming, attended the LC, PC meeting the other night, and let me tell you what, you guys need to do that sometime. There's a lot going on that we don't get to see because it's not in, because it may be in Walthamville, Riceboro, so on and so forth, but there's a lot going on in Liberty County. I have a whole different perspective just from attending the meeting on Tuesday with all the growth that's upon us. They're building houses and townhouses in places where I would not have thought they were building them now in Liberty County. So we are truly in the growth period. We are truly, and as we discussed earlier with the EMS, and with that growth come all the need for services, i.e., unfortunately, what this gentleman does too. So not only does the commercial residential grows, but the need for services grows. And of course, our challenge is trying to pay for them. Pay for 'em. All right. Mr. Coroner.
Well, good evening, Mr. Chairman, all commissioners, good evening. And y'all can put your red pens down now, so I'm not at budget right now, so I'm pretty good now. But just want to be in the agenda tonight just to kind of give you a brief overview of last year, the numbers from last year, how the numbers are broken down and all from last year. I think Commissioner Frazier on the soldiers. Yeah. So on the soldiers, we now have a memorandum agreement with the Armed Forces Medical Examiner's Office in Washington, D.C. They're going to handle all soldiers inside now of the garrison area.
Really?
So they have all soldiers. The biggest thing at the beginning Mr. Brown, the biggest thing is that the CID could not enter an agreement with the coroner's office. It had to come from the Armed Forces Medical Examiner's Office. Mm-hmm. So we sat down and phone calls and all, and finally came up with a memorandum agreement that they will handle soldiers on post. We have still the civilians, but they have the soldiers. It's still that concurrent jurisdiction and all that, but we got that worked out to where they will handle their own as for soldiers. They will just brief us and give us an update on what's going on, but they actually handle all their own folks doing now. Mm-hmm. So, but we still have the civilians around.
Soldier off post, we still have that.
Yes, sir. We still have the soldiers off post.
It's in our jurisdiction.
Yes, sir. And we still have the civilians on post. Yes, sir. Mm-hmm. So that's all got worked out from last year. So the numbers from last year, with a total of everything from last year we were involved with, numbers-wise, was 201 calls last year. And it's broken down into from children to natural deaths, accidents, suicides, homicides, all the way down. We had a total of 184 civilian deaths last year. We had 7 soldiers' deaths last year. Most of these soldiers were off post, of course, off post. And then we had 10 children deaths. We had 5 deaths of COVID last year. And then you're going to top at 127 of the natural. But it's got all broken down and give you the complete totals of everything from last year. Now, there are some numbers that's not listed on here. They're considered what we call NCC cases, which are not coroner cases. So those numbers are not shown on here because those are cases that went to the hospital, and they were not cases that we were involved with, other than just called about, but not cases that we was involved in directly.
So those folks who pass in the hospital are not included?
Some of them are not.
And then
'Cause
those
if-
folks who are under hospice care who pass at home?
Yes, ma'am. They're not included in that.
This number looks kind of low.
Yes, ma'am. They're not included.
Compared to people.
Yeah,
in our
because what it is, most you have hospice now, so
Yeah.
most of the hospice nurses have RN nurses, and they go out and do the pronouncing.
Yeah, okay.
Now, unless there is some suspicion of some foul play, then they notify 911. Then when law enforcement go out, and then they contact us. Then we go out. As far as the hospital deaths are, let's say for example, if you go to the hospital and you live more than 24 hours, then they will call us anyway. And they'll be like, well, this patient came from Liberty County, but they've been here 72 hours. Well, that's not a coroner's case because outside of that 24-hour window. Unless it's towards an accident or any kind of foul play, anything you die with after that. But just a natural death and you live more than 72 hours, everything is pretty much documented. From CAT scans and everything is documented on what the cause of death and all would be. So those are the cases not included, the NCC cases.
Help me out. So if a hospice nurse pronounces them, and they have to turn that paperwork into, I guess, probate?
Yes, they turn it to the funeral home.
To the funeral home?
Yes, sir.
So
Yes,
you
hospital
do get-
nurse.
So you do get the information?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
The hospital nurse will turn the paper into the funeral home.
Okay.
They have a pronouncement time on it, and everything be on their hospital sheet.
You say funeral home, but they turn to you as coroner? Or-
No, sir. The hospital sign the death certificate. They'll do everything. They'll
so
turn their sheet over
so-
to the funeral home,
about-
and then we are there all together. Now we have gotten involved with
So
cases.
you
where we
only
had to-
see it if they choose funeral home?
Yes, yes,
So
sir.
there's no obligation for them to report to you as coroner?
No, sir.
If they do the pronouncement?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Now, unless there is a situation where it's rough weather, bad weather, or whatever, and the hospice nurses can't get from where they're at to in the county here, then they would call us, and then we would go out and do the pronouncing for them. And that point in time, we pronounce and then turn it back over to hospice. But we do that occasionally to the hospice.
I don't know, for some reason, I thought that every death
Comes
comes to
through
you.
us.
I did too.
No matter who pronounced it, I thought still the coroner is notified.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say it's a how would I say, it's a catch-22 because if that was the case, it'd be these numbers here would be more higher
Yeah.
versus where they're at now.
So,
But-
so if a person, and hear me out, so if a person wanted to know then how many deaths there were in Liberty County, I couldn't come to you because you would not have everyone that's.
No, sir, I would not have all
So,
of this.
so that's the probate to get that
Yes, sir.
information?
Yes,
I
sir.
see.
I would have all the number of deaths we have in Liberty County that we would call and involved with.
You got involved with.
But as far as the hospice nurses and all, I wouldn't have those numbers.
Gotcha.
Now, on the funeral home side, we have the funeral home numbers.
You're right.
But if you put each funeral home numbers together, you probably get anywhere between 400, 500, 600 calls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Children, 5 of natural causes. What's a natural cause for a child's death?
Natural cause, like if a child is born with a birth defect
Oh, okay.
and live for a little while, or if they got any kind of disability, medical problems and medical issues, they have to go in the hospital or find unresponsive at home due to that medical condition, like cerebral palsy. You have some children that live a certain age, time frame. Those are called natural deaths.
So natural.
Yes, sir. Or special needs children. It's natural deaths.
Just to piggyback on it, did you, or anybody happen to read where the young boy was climbing the rock wall in the gymnasium? And he was he had a harness on, and they said he fell, and they brought him down with the harness, and when they got down there, they performed CPR on him, everything, and they pronounced him dead. And he came back to life after a little bit.
I agree.
So I want you to make sure you come to my house.
Well, normally, Commissioner, well, by the time
I better be dead.
by the time we get there, hopefully EMS done did their part and put the leads on you and made sure you ain't got no heart rhythm.
They did that to that young man. I mean, they said they did all that stuff, but I was thinking, I said, man, what? You know, somebody, if you pronounce him, I guess they pronounced him. The EMS pronounced him there.
They did.
But he had actually come back.
Yeah.
They said it was something with his heart rhythm, that shock just.
It's just like the football
players
player.
get hit real hard and go out. But I just wanted to
Well, I
remind you.
pray and hope that never
Yeah.
happens because it's so.
Let Marion come check me.
Yeah, I don't know. I might be looking for another employment that comes back. You know, so I'll be looking for some more employment after that one, I guess. So.
Yeah.
I can imagine getting at the funeral home that's not
Any
deceased yet.
questions from McCarter? Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. No problem.
Yeah.
I also too wanted to pick off a couple more things too.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Of course, you know the morgue. We do have the morgue still, and the issue still with the morgue being full. So I want to give you kind of an update on that issue.
Has that improved post-COVID?
Somewhat. The biggest issue now is, of course, is GBI still. So GBI is still taking time before we can actually send someone off for an autopsy, due to the fact of doctors, and they don't have the doctors to really staff the facility in Pooler like it should be staffed, especially for 32 counties that Pooler takes care of. So right now they're still backlog a little bit, trying to catch up on backlog, but we still have cases that we're still holding for at least 3 to 4 days before we can do an autopsy. I think right now we have 3 or either 4 now that's under refrigeration now in the morgue now. So that give us 2 slots left. And so if anything does happen, then I bought a refrigeration cooler at the funeral home. So I use that one. It's a 4-drawer cooler, so I use that one. And I also have a 2-drawer cooler. So we got extra 6 if we need be. So we total 12 if need
Are
be.
you keeping the hospital full?
Mr. Pierce, are you charging for the morgue at the coolers at the funeral home?
No, sir.
So that's generosity.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. I don't charge for the use of the field at the funeral. No, sir. No, I got enough taxes going on and no charges.
Thank you for your kindness, sir.
I will say this too. Y'all don't have to never worry about me probably working for county commissioner because, I don't want to sit on y'all's shoulders with having to deal with all this money and budgets and everything, so. I just take Mr. Brown's job over here. No, I don't want your job. I'm sorry. No, I don't want your job. No.
We definitely appreciate everything that not only you, but your whole support staff do for the county.
Well, we appreciate y'all. We couldn't do it without you all, so we appreciate y'all. And,
you all have one of those jobs that is needed, but no one ever wants to see you coming.
yeah.
So,
Well, I used to look at the job as part-time.
oh, yeah.
When I first got started, I used to do the job part-time. But over the years, in that first year and second year and third year, it started growing. And I look at it now, this is full-time. This is just like any other job it is full-time.
Right.
And I mean, I appreciate the support of the commissioners because even this year, I'm asking for one more full-time this year. And I mean, it's gotten to a point to where you have the temporary employees, which is good.
Right.
But if we ever have a natural disaster, those temporary employees are going to be going to their full-time job. And then they will leave us in a position where we only have me and one other full-time. So, we're just trying to, looking at everything that's going on in the world and everything going on, we're just trying to be proactive.
You're making me think,
Yeah.
so in the event of a natural disaster, would you have access to what the EMS police call mutual aid, where you can bring in someone to assist
We
you?
will have access. The only biggest issue is will they be able to get in the county? If there's something that block, will they be able to get in? We do have a team that will be prepared to come. It's just to be if they can get in and get out, and what resources we're going to
Is
do.
that a conversation, Mr. Brown, we have with EMA to ensure that in the event, praise the Lord, hope we don't have one, but if we do, that wouldn't be a problem?
Yeah, I'll be mostly probably in EMA with them, and that will only leave one deputy going out in the field to try to do everything. So, But that's why I put in, and y'all see in a special interest item this year for the second full-time. And that would take away from the temporary employee and make it full-time. So in other words, the temporaries are good, but full-time is always better. They're dedicated to the coroner's office.
I
And county.
think all over the country now, communities are embracing for potential disasters. So we need not wait to put our plan together, you know, when that happens. So if you see already there could be an issue with someone, mutual aid getting to the county, we need to go ahead and take care of that.
You know, I'm very scary and very leery every day, because anything can happen at any given moment, any given time frame. Phone can ring, and everybody's just. I mean, you can have all the plans in place, but if it ever happens, we're gonna all be in a frenzy trying to make sure we find plans, find this, find that. That's why I go to EMA, great EMA, great support and everything. They've got everything, plans and everything. They ready to jump on it any minute, any given time. That's a good thing.
I heard a sobering conversation about the internet being down in the last couple of days, and someone in management said, we had a backup plan, but we never tested it.
Yeah.
We never tested it. So let's test our backup. There you go.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, it's just too much going on. You look at the news. You got, I mean, you got shooting here. You got, I mean, it's just so much going on. I mean, anybody can walk into Walmart, and I mean, you can have mass casualty right there.
Yeah.
And mass casualty does not have to be 100 people or 2.
Right, that's right.
It can be just 10 people, but we just don't have the resources to take care of those 10 people. I can say here we've got the resources to take care of it. But at the same time, we would need more resources to come in to be able to help assist. But I'm a firm believer. I like to try to take care home until the cavalry gets here. And then when the cavalry gets here, then the cavalry can come in and help us finish up what we need to do. But just in case the cavalry can't get here in time, I want to be able to take care of my home.
Right. That's right.
Mr. Parrish,
Yes,
just
sir.
one more question, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Looking at the suicide numbers.
Yes, sir.
Are those up or about the same from
They
the
are
previous
really,
year?
the suicide numbers are going up a little bit.
Right.
And it's just due to, it's a lot of our suicides will, for example, we've had like the murder-suicide that was here in
Right.
Baton Rouge. The murder-suicide, that was just pretty much domestic. You know, but most of them are actually just suicides. They are gunshot wounds, things that you deal with suicides. And some are soldiers, and some have been civilians.
Right,
Yeah.
and I know we've had that discussion, just like what you were talking about the MOU. So, but these numbers are just strictly outside of Fort Stewart, again, correct?
Yeah.
So we.
Most of our numbers are outside
even,
folks do it.
Right, so even with the MOU, you still don't have access
Yeah,
to
we
those
do.
numbers?
We will have access now. We will have
Okay.
access to.
Okay.
But they're not included in here.
Right.
But we do have access to that now. We've asked them to call us on all deaths, whether it's civilians or not.
Right.
And the agreement we have is they would call us. We would turn around and we would take the information. Then we'll turn around and say, well, we give basically Fort Stewart back jurisdiction once they find us a soldier. But they would call us and confer with us and let us know what's going on. Which in the past, it used to be, is y'all case, no, that's that. But now they call us, we discuss it. Then we call the office medical examiner. The office medical examiner, we both talk together. And then we come up and we give them jurisdiction.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because of course, you know, anytime you think about suicides, you know, the first thing you think about is mental health.
Yeah.
And what can we do from our standpoint, from the county, or even support groups or anything like that to kind of help prevent that? Because, I mean, everyone knows since COVID, you know, that kind of changed the environment, not only in Liberty County, not in the state, but the nation and the world. So
I think at the meeting they had at the, was that meeting where, yeah, they discussed the mental health crisis.
listen,
And, yeah,
it's
and-
serious.
Yeah,
It's
and
really
they
serious.
discussed some resources that they're working on. And the sheriff, I think, is spearheading a lot of that was the resources and trying to get a certain area, wing and all, they put on to be able to handle it. Because a lot of 1013s, they can't, mental health patients, they have nowhere to go. I mean, everything is full. They can't get the services. And most of them, they need the services, but they can't get them.
Yeah.
And some medications are making it worse.
Yeah, we'll talk about it offline.
Okay, all right then.
But absolutely.
Right, yeah.
I'm a true believer in that.
Yeah,
I-
some
I see
medications,
it
they-
on
yeah.
a daily basis, absolutely. Yeah, so I give you a call and we'll sit down.
No problem.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you, Mr. Gardner.
Yes, sir. All right.
Appreciate that.
All right,
Any
thank you,
questions?
sir.
All right, see,
Your
Mr. Walden,
request
I
is duly
didn't,
noted.
now, see, I didn't ask for nothing much this time, I did, see, I'm
No,
doing
I
that.
was just wondering, I was listening to
Yeah, you
Commissioner
know.
Frazier talking about the suicides, and it kind of bothered me. You ain't thinking about killing yourself.
Man, you see this?
Well, I mean, I'm concerned.
I could tell you all now, if, you know, I can't tell you how I'm gonna leave this earth. And I would joke with Mr. Pierce all the time.
He was glad to see me.
Yeah, I'm glad to see him, because he always say he's glad to see me. And I'll tell him, it could be, he could see me and I can't see him. So I'm glad to see him, so.
A lot of people don't like to see me.
Right.
You know, although they like to see me, you know, on this, you know, this out here, but a lot of people like, oh, here come the corner, or what's going on, you know?
No.
So, you know, but yeah.
I mean, Reggie's business is always looking up.
See, I'm the last one to let you down.
All right.
All right. Thank y'all.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate you.
Thank you, sir.
How's your dad?
Oh, he's doing good. He's
Davis,
doing good.
Liberty County Public Works.
Yep, good evening. I
And
think
land transfer.
you folks have discussed this before, but this contract authorizes your acquisition of a 6-acre tract next to Coastal EMC as an expansion of your public works operations. And the contract provides for very simple terms. The sales price is $30,000, and the county will acquire full title to the property. I think right now there is a dirt road that goes to the middle of the property that accesses Coastal's property in the back. And so as part of the transaction, the county will push a new dirt road, you know, to allow Coastal to have access to its property. But other than that, there are no unusual terms, and it's a very straight-ahead transaction. And so the board simply needs to authorize the chairman to execute the agreement. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer it.
Everybody clear? Mr. Brown, you add anything to? I know we discussed it.
And as usual, Coastal EMC has been a good partner to work with, so.
Chairman, I make a motion, we approve the purchase agreement.
Okay.
I make a motion that we accept the purchase agreement for Public Works.
Second, the three of us.
You gonna second?
I got your back. You're second.
She made the motion. All right,
And then you
and
said,
second. All right, any further discussion?
They need me.
All
on
in
there.
favor, by show of hands, please. All in favor, by show of hands, please. All in favor, by show of hands, please. All right, thank you.
I didn't hear you, Commissioner.
Yeah, I just, but Mr. Chairman, I was, I don't know if I missed something, I probably did, but, Public Works, and we got the lawyer there as opposed to the Clinton. What was that about? What was,
No, he's here because we're doing a land acquisition.
for the purchase agreement?
Yeah.
That's for the expansion that,
We're buying land, so real estate
So it's a
transaction.
contract.
Yeah, real estate, yeah.
facility.
and you looked at.
That's your answer, Matt.
Buying dirt.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I just,
What
Not
about the
equipment.
other piece up there?
I thought maybe Clinton was, out of town and he just had a.
He was here earlier.
Filling in for it or something.
All right, land transfer, Liberty Regional.
Now, see, I could see Kelly being here for this.
More of a notification, as you folks know, with your takeover of the EMS operations, the hospital authority agreed to transfer title to the current EMS station behind the hospital. And so this deed is simply accomplishing that. The hospital authority will be transferring title to the station to the county, and I just need a motion to accept the property, and that's it. No
So moved,
signature will be there.
Second. Motion and second, we accept the transfer of property from Liberty Regional to Liberty County Board of Commissioners. Any further discussion? All in favor, show of hands, please. All right, the motion passes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, folks.
You don't want to fill in for Bob Seville?
Probably
He's
does.
probably on.
You don't even know him?
Probably does not.
It's like I never attend public hearings, so thank you for that.
Can I be seen?
Bob Seville.
One little bit.
Did we, own that property anyhow? Did the hospital buy that property?
Yeah.
Connie? In the beginning, when they put the EMS office there?
But we,
Yeah, I was just wondering if Well, that's right, because it was over there with them at that time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Mr. Brown, you doing the casualty insurance presentation?
Actually,
Oh, there he is.
There he
Bill is with us
Technology.
again.
Technology. Mr. Seville, hello.
Hello, y'all ready for me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, I appreciate you having me back here, and y'all will recall our meeting last week, or 2 weeks ago, wasn't it? And, going through the insurance, and we've, got the final proposal completed, which I'm going to share on your screen right now. And y'all can hear me all right, is that correct?
That's correct.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
We went out and, we've gone to quite a few markets to try to get this, down as much as possible and get the best possible quote. You know, we had a lot of challenges this year. So if you'll look on your screen, you'll see that, we have, we'll start with the general liability. And the general liability, as we mentioned, is going to go up a little bit because of the budget and the number of employees, a few changes there. So we're satisfied with that. And I'll skip down to the automobile next. And you'll recall that we talked about the 400% loss ratio on the auto. So this somewhat we expected increase we would get on this to get that loss ratio back up down under 100%. We were with Hudson Insurance Company last year, with them for about 5 years. And they've been a good partner, but this year they have non-renewed us, and so we had to go to National Indemnity. So this particular coverage, we've moved some things around, and while we don't have a deductible in your liability, there's a $2,500 deductible on the physical damage. And we are only covering 12 vehicles because of the cost of the physical damage coverage. This would have been about $250,000 if we'd have covered all the vehicles. So we used we did two things. One, we had a threshold of $100,000, and we're self-insuring everything under $100,000. And then that leaves, we moved the ambulances over to the volunteer fireman's insurance policy, which was much less in premium. And we couldn't do that previously until we started using our own drivers. And that was 10 vehicles right there that we got off this policy, and that helped quite a bit. The remaining 12 vehicles are mostly solid waste trucks and a few dump trucks. So you can see that premium is $57,000. One thing we'll note on here is that this particular carrier will not cover our hired and non-owned vehicles, which is a coverage we'd like to have. So we have gone back out to the marketplace, and we're trying to find a separate carrier that would add that coverage back for us. The next thing we'll drop down to is the law enforcement liability. You'll see that went up a little bit, and that's rated based on the number of officers that we have, and of course the loss experience, which has been fairly good. Your public entity management, which is what covers the board and the employees for negligence or wrongful acts, and the employment practices liability. This employment practices liability went up quite a bit. The number of employees that travelers used last year was not a true number of the number of employees we actually had, and they used a different number for this year, but this is mainly driven by the losses that exist in the insurance industry for employment practice ability, for termination cases and discrimination and things like that. So I'm sure you see those types of claims frequently, and they're one claim is much more than stringing with it. Skip down to the umbrella, and the umbrella is excess over all of these coverages we just talked about, except the automobile. And we keep the automobile at $1 million because that's the statutory limit. We don't want to increase our exposure about $1 million above that. The next one that we talked about quite a bit in our last meeting was the property, and we knew this was going to take a huge increase. And part of this was because the values we had right here, you can see they almost doubled. And that is because we spent a lot of time out in the field making sure all of the buildings had the correct value, because would be compensated for the amount of value shown on our statement of value. That particular building, we determined with the inflation, everything that's occurred, that we were tremendously undervalued. And we added back additional limits for business interruption and extra expense if it was a building to another location, something of that nature. And we added back fencing. At the jail, we have $200,000 worth of fencing. So if you have a tornado hit that and wipes your fencing out, you make sure you have that coverage. In addition to that, so you can see where we were, the property values doubled, and then we talked about the property rates are probably as bad, or even folks in the industry say worse than it was after 9/11. And after 9/11, nobody could get coverage. So the coastal rates in places where you have a catastrophic exposure have almost doubled, and we're seeing that reflected. It took us literally till 3 o'clock this afternoon to get all this put together, because last year we had 2 carriers that accommodated our $100 million in coverage. But this year, we have over 12 carriers that take different pieces of each layer. And so we layered this up to a limit of $100 million per occurrence. And that'll be our total limit that we maintain on there. The last thing I'll mention is cyber liability that I think we talked about a little bit last time, that we've done a good job of keeping that flat, and all the money you've spent to get multi-factor authentication and EDR and all the different defenses we have against a cyber attack have helped us in that amount. So we have some other quotes coming in, and we continue to try to improve these numbers. So Joey would like to get authorization from the chairman if we can find something better. For instance, we might be able to drop this number down for another number, and we may have some carriers to come in more competitive on these. And we've gone back to Hudson and asked them to try to give us a quote for this, even though they non-renewed us. Their actuarial numbers said it would be $700,000, but they want to put a large deductible on it. So we're not convinced that would be the best thing for us. So that completes our presentation, and I'll turn it back over to Joey.
Yeah, just a note, as Bob mentioned, Bob, I appreciate all the work y'all been doing. So our renewal date is May 1st. And so as I think he mentioned last time, so really what we wanted to go ahead and do was give the chairman authorization by May 1st to bind the best available for us. This is the best available we see right now. But again, if there is one area in here that gets better, to authorize the chairman to go ahead and bind the best coverage for the county along these limits specified.
We need to vote today on this particular presentation.
We do.
Mr. Brown, do we have the total, or did I miss? Is this in
2,545,704.
2,000,005?
545, there it is right there.
Oh, my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
As versus 805,000?
805,799 last year. Right.
And that's primarily driven by the losses of the auto and the rates we talked about on the property.
And just as a reminder too, so the losses, actually, when you look back on the 5-year run, the losses, the hard losses occurred in years 1 and 2 of that. Actually, over the last 3 years, the auto losses haven't been as bad, if I remember our chart, Bob, and when we looked at it. So one of those years will fall off next year. But I don't want you to be misled that this past year we've had a bad auto loss claim, but it's the experience over a 5-year period. So as I remember, that first year that's in there, in fact, there it is right there. If I remember right, that first one that was in there was actually, second year that was in there, loss ratio, I mean, none of them have been real good, but that one particularly, 477%.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, there's another one in there too, 443%.
Yeah.
But this past year has not been the cause. It's an average over the last 5.
Well,
So what happened in that that second year where you got the 1,112%?
I don't know in particular what happened, whether it was they're actually making a large reserve probably for a claim that happened the year before, to tell you the truth, or some subsequent year to 2018, 2019, because a large part of that was a loss reserve of $750,000. So it must have been a large claim. There was a large claim evidently prior to the 18-19 timeframe that they were reserving for.
Yeah, we had, right here, we had several claims that were, what we had here, it is at the top. You see, we had these 20 claims over 10,000 to 100,000, 3 from 100 to 250, and so forth. And we can't go into the individual claims.
Wow, that 500, 250.
what are we looking at, anything that's out there now that from this point forward, but if we're looking in arrears, what are our options? I mean, we're gonna have to use what was already there? I mean,
Go look at the last 6 years.
Okay.
And so you can see that this will have some baggage for a while.
Well, that's what I was looking at, the baggage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's catching up with us.
That our goal here, in this current year, it's 71%. And if you get into the insurance world, they'll say that's a green year and it hasn't developed, because you'll get claims in subsequent years that date back to this year. And those claims will grow. You may have an accident, suit, or something of that nature, is what we generally see.
You basing that then on what our history is for, I mean, when you're looking at it, is it a history for 6 years, or is it a history for as many years as you've got? What have you got from 23 to 18? There's nothing.
Look at these 5 years right here. They usually throw out this current year.
Right.
Because it's not complete. We could have an accident tomorrow. But they'll look at these 5 complete years.
Right.
And then, the closer you get to the current date, the more of these loss ratios could develop. A actuary would look at this and tell you that 443% is probably gonna develop out to 500 or 600% based on normal insurance tables. So your goal here is to improve risk management, and that's what we were talking about last week, to try to put the policies and procedures in place so that and we use the sheriff to help us do that, and we put things in place that would be proactive before we have a claim. And the greater extent we can do that and train our drivers and make it a positive influence on our drivers and our employees. Check the MVRs, which you're already checking those, but Joey, I don't know if we want to talk to some of the restrictions that this company will have on the drivers at some point in time, but it would be to help us improve our experience. And you're already doing most of what they're asking to do. So you can see right there, and then distracted driving has been a huge problem. A lot of times, y'all have all seen advertising on that and so forth, but even when you get into an emergency vehicle, you have so many things to distract you in there, and they're really not, they're not subject to the same distracted driving laws, if you will, but it really it's a challenge for them, and they have to learn how to use verbal commands and things instead of looking at something. So those are all the things that we want to begin to implement, and everything we do to get these numbers down.
Joey, out of all of these vehicles that we're talking about, all of these vehicles belong to the Board of Commissioners are connected, like the sheriff office, all of those are, none of them from the, let's say, district attorney office?
No, there'd be some in the district attorney's office that we provide for. The majority of them now, probably. But all of them, all the vehicles are titled to the county commission under the enterprise program. But again, that's one major change too, that there is no more collision deductible. There is no more collision coverage. Anything that's a wreck will be the responsibility of the county to fix out of pocket. And that is something that, as we talk with other agencies, other jurisdictions going through the same thing that they've had to do with some of the same carriers, is implement some different driving policies that are going to have to take effect, but also that are seeing things like that happen, they're having to go self-insured simply because of the cost. We looked at the loss ratios, the collision costs that have been incurred over the last couple of years. And as Bob mentioned, I think he said about $250,000 more to add that coverage in there. We weren't coming anywhere close to paying those amounts for accidents. So it behooves us to be in the self-insured side now because the cost of coverage has gone up so bad.
It averages out to about $55,000. You would throw out any claims that would occur on one of the big trucks because those would be insured, so that would take that average down a little bit.
Are you seeing this across the state? Or everywhere you're doing business, are you seeing this?
Yeah, we're, yes, sir, the state of the insurance market right now, just today, I would say I might get 5 non-renewals in a year. And today, just today, I got 10 in. And the insurance market in general has just been hit with so many claims. You've seen what the weather has done. Very unusual. I mean, each carrier has been touched by these different claims. And, we've never had the number of hurricanes in Georgia had in the last 5 years. But also on the auto side, the size of these claims seems to be growing. And the carriers, it's almost every city or county you look at has a large claim on it. And I don't like to get in all the reasons for that right here, but if you talk to any insurance person, even your homeowner's agent, you've probably seen this on your homeowner's policies, that the premium would go up in the auto policy. And in particular, Georgia is one of the top first states, in the top 5 as far as automobile loss experience. So it's sort of this particular situation we have this year is a perfect storm of the property, we doubled our values, the property rates, especially for coastal, have doubled. Your auto experience has been, real tough, and the state in general had tough loss experience. And so we're seeing these types of increases virtually every account. There's some of the utilities are not so bad. Counties and cities of any size are.
So Bob, you're saying that over the years coming up, with the change in driving habits between a couple of the agencies involved, should make a difference in years to come?
We think so.
Okay, now also, what about the employees that's driving vehicles belong to the county? Let me see if I can say this right, but they're not per se county employees.
Shouldn't be anybody driving a county vehicle that's not a county employee.
But I'm going back to the DA office.
Well, yeah, but they're covered. I mean, they're going to be covered. There's a list of drivers that's submitted every year for a driver's list of approved drivers, and they're on the driver's list.
Yeah.
And it's more of a, I think Bob pointed this out, we were talking about equipment or something today. Actually, we were talking about non-owned vehicles, but it's more of a numbers than it is a person. So they're insuring X number of drivers.
And vehicles.
Yeah, and vehicles, yeah.
Generally, and when the easiest rule of thumb is that the insurance follows the vehicle. So you'll have the coverage, usually no matter who's driving it. This company wants the driver's list though.
Okay.
Well, Joey, did you see this coming? Or, I mean,
We talked this when we started to do renewals.
really?
And I see it coming all the time when we
So-
get accident reports.
The avenue we're gonna have to pay it is gonna be a one-time,
No, sir, we'll pay it if they occur.
Per.
Now, we'll pay the
per
premium.
accident.
The premiums are gonna be paid in May. But on the accident side, we'll pay those at time of occurrence if the vehicle's fixed.
so in May, what are we gonna be paying the total amount?
2,545,704.
Good gracious alive.
Like Bob said too, that with the property values, I mean, and David was in here earlier, just the cost of lumber, but y'all know, we go through the new construction of the projects went from $150 a square foot to over 300.
Everything's taken
So,
up, yeah.
and I think something that he said that was key too, that wasn't the same way on the old policy, was that we had a list of scheduled values for property and contents countywide. And there was a value assigned to each facility, but pretty much if you were within the range there and you didn't grossly come close to exceeding your total value limits, you could work with the insurance provider. In other words, if your Justice Center to rebuild actually cost, it was on a replacement schedule, and you had it on there for, $12 million, and it cost 13 to rebuild it, you probably work with them to try to do something. This is more strict. And so you gotta be better safe than sorry on your building values.
Have we got the money?
You gotta have the
Gonna
money.
get it out of,
You gotta have the money.
well, I know that, but I'm just saying, what do
General
you wanna
fund.
try to do?
It's a general fund item.
Well, yeah, it'll be a general fund, absolutely. Mhm. just like it is every year, is budgeted under risk management.
Just
But
as verse,
are you gonna pay it out of the general fund, or are you gonna try to use fund balance to take it in May and thus bill that back?
Well, no, actually, well, it'll be paid out of the general fund, and if there's not enough cash in the bank account at the time, we'll draw, but I mean, don't know what the cash on hand is right now, but it would basically end up probably coming out of fund balance, yes. It will be something you'll consider, actually, you know, Bob, we will have to pay it, but it'll be an item that'll show up in next fiscal year. It'll actually be an item that you're considering in your next fiscal year budget.
but still have to
I
pay.
wouldn't mind doing it, but I would think that we need to have, if it's gonna be on our back, we need to send a letter to the direct reports that report to you and constitutional officers. If they drive a county vehicle, they're gonna have to be required to go through a defensive driving class.
Well, we're gonna get a whole list of things, and y'all will be privy to that, to everything that's gonna have to change on that driver's thing. We're doing a lot of it already, but we're doing, I think, every second or third year MVR checks, those will go to 1 year. There will probably be some policies internal to some constitutional officers that'll need to be amended.
Do y'all do that, Gary?
So,
Put people through a defensive driving? Those are city vehicles? Yeah.
County provides that, so, for,
we do. We do defensive.
been
I mean,
doing-
we get that through our risk management control group. That's one thing we're already kind
there's
of
certain
doing.
people who they require to take.
Well, and if you have an accident in a county vehicle, you're required to go through a defensive driver's class before you go back under the wheel again. So
Was that just your department or all departments?
that's all of them, that's
All
countywide.
departments, so that's already in place?
It's already
that
in place.
policy?
I've been in there with them,
No.
Okay.
yeah. All right,
Well, Donald, you look like you got you a big ticket item here.
here's where we are. Here's where we are. Yeah.
Ain't
Chair,
got no
entertain a motion.
choice.
I make a motion that we grant the chairman permission as we go back out and search before May 1st, you say, Mr. Brown?
May 1st, yes, sir.
Finds anything that's much more suitable than what we're looking at now, and grant him the permission to do what's necessary with paperwork.
Buying the best,
Find the best
buying the
suitable.
best option for coverage available.
Second to the motion.
I'll second it.
All right, motion and a second. Any further discussion? I think there's been further discussion.
I just want to, again, say, let's make sure that all of our folks working, that you get a letter to them that's saying, this is what this went up to. I mean, there's no other way to explain it.
All in favor of the motion presented, let me know by show of hands, please. Opposition?
I hope you'll send me a copy of it. I don't drive one, but I'd like to see what kind of message you're sending.
Be just like building maintenance today. He came up and said what he needed.
He did. Agreement to conduct municipal election.
Yes, sir, this is, agreement to conduct the City of Hinesville municipal election in November. It is the
Joey.
same.
You want to tell him he can go?
Bob, thank you so much. I'm sorry.
All right.
We're moving on.
Don't sit for the rest of the
He's been, I tell you, and he's off here now, but, over the last, 45 days, and insurance companies will not give you a quote until you get inside a 40 to 45-day window, and some down to the day, but they've really been working hard on that. This is an agreement to conduct the City of Hinesville municipal election, through our Liberty County Board of Elections Registration Department. 100% reimbursable, since there'll be no other elections going on at that time for them. So it is the same contract that you have approved before. And I did make a note, even though I hadn't seen it after Ms. Rhonda was in here today, that I'm going to contact those other municipalities because they'll need to, sooner than later, go ahead and get their agreement in here so we can get it approved.
Walterville and Riceboro.
Walterville, Riceburg, and Gum Branch, I believe it was, right?
And
Gum Branch.
Allenhurst.
Allen Hurst.
And Gum Branch too.
Everybody except,
Midway.
I guess. and
You
Fleming.
need a motion, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, I need a motion.
So moved.
Second? All in favor, show of hands, please. All right, let's go. Mr. Mosley, ambulance bids.
Board, we met with the ambulance staff, EMS staff, and tweaked it, sent it out to bid. We only received one bid, and that was from Custom Body Works in the amount of $315,285. We would like to recommend to the board that we reject that and make some more adjustments, tweak the specifications and send it out to bid. We were looking at somewhere around the 200,000 range, about the 270, 280 range. But this, as you can see, is a substantial increase from that amount.
Wait a minute, Mr. Moses.
Yes, sir.
Just for one now?
Yes, sir. One ambulance.
So it went from 180,
About
180,
about 275.
Two something, yeah.
75, yeah.
two something to 315.
Yes, sir.
Hadn't been that many years ago though, Commissioner Stevens, it was in the 180s.
Can we go ahead and get two while we're going at it before it goes up again?
Get it on insurance.
One of the challenges too that he mentions in that is that even this provider cannot guarantee us what type of chassis it might be or when the order could be placed, because the order banks aren't open on any chassis. And so there was no future delivery date or really specification to meet that he could provide. So we're gonna have a conversation with him to see what options may be out there for other type chassis units.
All right, Chair, did we vote? Motion to reject the bid?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second? Second?
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? All in favor, show of hands, please. Bid has been duly rejected.
Thank you.
Try to do it better. Any announcements, Mr. Brown?
No, sir, the only other thing is we've got 2 items for real estate.
Okay, Chair,
For
to motion to
executive
go out of regular session into executive session?
So moved.
Second, all in favor? Motion to come out of executive session back in the regular session.
So moved.
Second. All in favor? All right. Nothing else for the good order? Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? We are stand adjourned.